Welcome to Beyond the Closing Table. I'm your host, Michael Martin, and I'm here to interview top producing real estate agents, mortgage lenders, and business owners. Very excited to bring my friend in today, Mr. Bruce Hill, who is a top producing real estate in this area, the Raleigh market, but also has another unique spin on what he does for his business we're going to talk about here shortly. But thanks so much for being here, Bruce.
Michael, man, I really appreciate the time. I've been looking forward to this for a couple of weeks. Little miffed that you didn't get me in sooner, though.
Yeah. Well, you're here now, and I'm grateful for that too. So we talked about it for a while. We just didn't get it on the calendar. So thanks for being here. We're going to talk a little bit about your business. Before we get into that, I want to talk a little bit about just kind of the background, right? So where you're from, how you ended up here, and what you were doing before. Because you and I have had some conversations about this, and I think it's extremely interesting on kind of the model you started off with, and then kind of, again, how you ended up here in the triangle. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Well, back in 2002 through 2003, I was leaving college, working for a builder back in my hometown.
And where was that?
This would be Monterey, Virginia,
right.
which almost nobody knows about except for you, because we've had these conversations. Monterey is just this tiny little town in the mountains of western Virginia, near the Shenandoah Valley. And I was not cut out for the life of a builder. My fingers were constantly swollen because I'd miss the nail and smack my hands, and it was rough. I enjoyed it. I learned a lot, but not necessarily for me. And I thought to myself, it must be easier to sell these things than build these things. And that was a big misconception that I had, a really big misconception. So I went and got my real estate license. I started on January 2nd of 2004 as a 24-year-old, I believe, and spent my first year hustling, just grinding, hustling, talking to everyone I knew, and all that labor and all that effort turned into one deal that I made $1,800 on.
Okay. That's the fame of becoming a real estate agent and the glory, right? Funny story, I got to say this because you mentioned it. One of the first papers I ever wrote at ECU in whatever English class I had at the time, my freshman year, was entitled "To Hammer or Not to Hammer." And it was obviously, so I had come from, my dad owned an architectural firm and a building company and some development stuff. And so I spent a lot of summers doing, construction. And so one of the things I knew for sure I did not want to do, right, is to be a laborer.
To swing a hammer.
And so the paper, I got an A on it. It was "To Hammer or Not to Hammer." It was basically why the heck I was in college. So.
Yeah. Exactly. And little did we know that there's a big learning curve on the other side, on the pen and paper side of things as well.
No doubt.
So sold real estate, or let's say tried to sell real estate there for about 3 years. Started getting a little bit of success, and as any young person, you're always looking for the.
I gotta ask, what did you do besides selling real estate? Because clearly you didn't live on $1,200.
I barely made any money. I would drive over to Stanton, Virginia for a little while. Single guy, living in a free house. My mom had a house in the little town, and so at least I had housing somewhat covered. But I would drive over and work at an Applebee's at night.
Okay. So that's sweet.
I'd probably spend every dollar that I made in tips on the drive over the mountains into the restaurant to work. But it was fun. I didn't know any better.
Yeah.
Barely made it by. No insurance. Didn't have any utilities. It's just like I'm barely living on ramen still, and didn't know any better. I mean, it was. I don't want to say fine. It started to get a little bit of traction, and I decided to move. Why? I was young. I don't know. At that time, by that point, I was married. So moved to Roanoke, Virginia, reset completely again. Knew a couple of people from high school that had gone there, and all of a sudden I'm back after 3 years of grinding and finally starting to get a little tiny bit of traction. I land in this new city where I didn't know anyone, and I'm trying to sell real estate again. So I fall back on my waiter days, and I start serving some tables at night just to make ends meet. And at least I knew a little bit more about getting clients then. So that year, I made a little bit in real estate, helped a few families out, helped a few buyers, a couple of sellers, and applied for, and this was fun, applied for a ton of broker price opinion companies.
Okay.
To just trying to piece together. And I think every day for about a year, I would go and find a new asset manager online.
So what year is this roughly?
This would have probably been somewhere around 08.
Okay, so when the crash was happening, right? Because
happening.
that was when that was needed a lot,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
And maybe not everybody knows what a BPO is. So why don't you explain? Is that
it's
right?
essentially, yeah. So bank has an underperforming or non-performing asset, a house that's in foreclosure.
Yeah.
And they want an evaluation of that house, but they don't want to spend $600, $700, $800 on an appraisal. So they'll hire a brokerage firm or an agent that supposedly has experience. I passed myself off as having experience doing this to go do a quick drive-by. Most of the time, the person that's in the house doesn't know you're there. They're typically late on a mortgage, not always, but often late on a mortgage. And they say, we need 2 front angles. We need a street view on both up and down the street. We need a straight on angle of the house, and then a picture of any deficiencies that you can see with the property. And nobody can know you're there. So you're literally, there were
It's like
times
a private eye almost.
when people would be in their front yard or on their porch, and I'd be driving by with a camera going, trying to get shots. I got caught a few times. Very awkward when you get caught.
Yeah.
So during this time, I'm doing broker price opinions pretty much every day, making $50 to $60 a pop. Got to the point where I could evaluate a house in 15 minutes. The report takes a little longer, but I could get a pretty good evaluation of a house quickly. And getting some traditional real estate clients. And one day I get a call from an asset manager that I'd been doing BPOs for, and they said, can you go to Pulaski, Virginia, and evaluate this house for us? It's a foreclosure. It's empty. If you do this for us for free, we'll give you the listing. And I was like, hey, great. I don't know if anyone listening to this or you know Pulaski, Virginia.
I feel like I've driven through there. Is it like off of a major interstate or something or not?
Yeah, it's down off 81.
Okay, I thought so. Yeah.
And at the time, I haven't been through there for a while. It was really kind of a depressed area.
I was going to say, it's just, I'm sure it's bustling.
Yeah, and not anywhere close to where I was living either. So I drive an hour and 45 minutes one way to do an evaluation on an empty house that I'm not getting paid on with the hope that I get the listing. But I'm like, I want an in with these banks. So I go down there. Grass is 8 feet tall. I go up to the door. It's not a nice house. I go up to the door. I try to get in. I couldn't get in. And I was like, I have to get in. I have to get in.
You have to break into this house?
Yeah. Got permission to do it. It's like, but there's neighbors around, and I think I'm going to get in trouble if they see me crawling through a window. So I go and knock on a neighbor's door, and he comes to the door, and I said, hey, I want to let you know who I am. I'm here to give an evaluation and potentially put the house next door on the market. I have to get in, and I don't have a key for it. I wanted you to know who I was. And he says, hold on a second. And he comes back to the door with a phone and a gun, like a pew-pew. And he goes, don't go anywhere. You stay right here until the cops show up. So at gunpoint, I'm standing on this neighbor's
But he's not pointing the gun at you, right?
He's pointing the gun at me. Yeah.
Wow, and you introduced yourself.
It wasn't, I'm hitting the microphone. It wasn't really bad, but it was a little traumatizing.
No doubt.
Okay.
So you're trying to tell him what you're doing.
Yeah.
And he then gets his gun and he's like, forget it. I'm calling the cops on you.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yep. So cops show up, explain the whole situation to them. They let me go in the house, did an evaluation on it. My valuation came back at like $7,000. Could you imagine buying a house for $7K right now? $7,000. Probably rents for $700 or $800 a month. You get your money back in 10 months if you buy it. But
$7,000. How is that even possible? I mean, the dirt's not worth $7,000.
Not there.
Wow.
Yeah, not there. During the time where I was doing foreclosures, I sold several houses for $3,000, and I'd make a $3,000 commission. Literally, the bank wants it off their books. They do a $3,000 sale, $3,000 commission just to get rid of it.
Wow.
We'll pay you to get rid of this. Okay, but this is $7,000.
Use that to buy another house.
I made $1,000. I didn't buy another house. I had strict rules that I'm not allowed to buy from asset managers that I'm listing for. Made $1,000. They call me after I quickly sold that, and they were like, "We got 4 more for you." Did those 4. They call me after that. "We got 17 more for you." Okay. My broker at the time, who ended up being a business partner, he starts blogging about my foreclosures, and I started doing some short sales at the same time as well. And so by the time my 5th, 6th year of real estate rolls around, I'm listing a lot of houses. 70-80% are short sale and foreclosure.
Okay.
And so I'm getting some traction in my
less
broker.
than $100,000, most of them.
Almost all.
Yeah.
Like 50, 60 was probably the average price for the majority.
Wow.
Of
That sounds like, I mean, I remember talking to people that were selling properties in Detroit for like that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. That's
This is exactly what it was like. I'm looking at our price points here of what, 485 might be the median
right now. It's close to 500. Yeah.
Close to 500, and it's just night and day. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm making typically 3.5-4% on those, but it's still $50,000-$60,000 houses.
Yeah.
Which, being a young person in my 20s, felt like pretty good money.
Yeah, sure.
It's a volume business. So, my broker's blogging about these deals, and one day he gets a call from a guy in Virginia Beach. A lot of people know Ryan Finch. Ryan says, "Hey, I have a big Fannie Mae contract, really big Fannie Mae contract, and I want to expand it across Virginia into a bunch of other states." And he says they're allowing this to happen. We'll run your back end operations for you. He says, "But you are doing all these foreclosures up there." And my broker's like, "Well, it's my office, but it's really Bruce doing it." He goes, "Oh, yeah, we're doing a lot of foreclosures." And he's a great agent in his own right. So he calls me up that night and he goes, "We're driving to Virginia Beach tomorrow. We're about to be 50-50 partners." And we landed this Fannie Mae contract and a HUD contract at the same time, and essentially just kind of took off in the foreclosure space from there.
Wow.
Doing a couple hundred foreclosures a year.
That's wild.
Yeah.
So went from doing almost nothing to all of a sudden just crushing unit-wise.
Yeah. Not traditional real estate, though.
How was it profitable? Like,
sure.
Yeah. That's great.
I was living on, I'm still not living a lavish lifestyle or anything like that, but it was profitable and I was putting some money aside. And then we got fired from both in a single day in 2012, I believe it was. I think it was 2012. 1 week, Fannie Mae fired the whole organization, everyone that was with Ryan. There were probably 15 or 20 independent offices that had linked up with his kind of contract network, and we were gone. And then HUD was really close behind that, I think within a week, 2 weeks, and went from a couple hundred listings a year to nothing. So then I started picking up radio ads. And I was working all the time. I mean, when you list that many properties and you're just dealing with banks like that, you're not networking. You're not doing the traditional things that agents are taught to do with their sphere of influence. So I had a better sphere of influence, but everybody thought of me as a foreclosure agent at the time.
Sure.
So took some of the money and I put it into these big media buys. Getting live read by some national personalities and some local radio personalities. So they'd come out of their regular music or talk segment, and they'd say, "Hey, before we go to break," and then they'd either live read or they'd hit a recording and say, "I want to talk to you guys about Bruce and Damon." They're doing their listing agents. And that took about 4 months of kind of back to rice and beans a little bit. And about 4 months in, that started taking off. And we went big media for a while and built back up to a couple
Was it
hundred
like crazy
deals a year.
expensive, or was it,
It's not cheap.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at 5K, 6K a month per station.
Okay.
I think we ended up on 4 or 5 stations.
Okay, so you're spending 20 plus a month.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And they don't all pan out, but that really taught me. I had to all of a sudden go from being able to apply to be on a bank's list to sitting in front of sellers that I don't know face to face, who, if they've called on a radio ad, they're probably calling a dozen other agents that they've seen farming or prospecting or sphere of influence or in church or whatever it is. So suddenly I have to change personas to, I'm not just a dirty paper pusher for a bank, to I've got to be face to face with people that have never seen me before.
Yeah.
And they just know radio ads.
Wow.
And that was a big learning experience for 3-4 years. I think the year that I moved here, this is still all back in Virginia. The year I moved here, we had 749 sellers call and say, I want you guys to come list my house.
Wow.
And it started getting to the point where they were come list me deals. They were, we've been seeing your ads. We've been hearing you. Brett told us to call you. Bunch of, I'm not going to name the media, the big nationwide media personalities, because half of everyone, a lot of times they're political. Okay. And, but yeah, we heard that you guys are the ones to go. And so it started with, we're interviewing you and 10 other people. And then it got to the point where it was, we've been hearing your ads for 3 years, 4 years. Come sell my house.
Yeah. You're at this point already the expert in the marketplace for that. Whether you were or not, you're known for that at the time. But it sounds like at that point you had enough transactions. Certainly you were an expert.
Yep.
Very cool.
So yeah,
never done any sort of advertising like that ever. I think I bought a few Facebook ads and I have no idea what I'm doing when I do that.
Neither do I. Not anymore. Yeah.
But that's interesting. We all know of a couple of the local people here that are still doing those. Obviously Mark Spain is a big one that everybody's known for all over the country now. And they wouldn't do it for long if it didn't work. So it clearly can work if you're willing to spend the money.
It takes a little bit of time,
yeah,
obviously, but once you have established that name and that presence with a strong, unique selling proposition, it works.
Yeah, I always hear there's a couple mortgage companies that I do here, advertise locally that. They've been doing it for a long time, so you got to assume they wouldn't be doing it if it didn't work for them.
Yeah, you'd think.
Yeah. Cool. So that's how you ended up in Raleigh. Well, you didn't say exactly why you moved to Raleigh, did you?
I threw a dart at a map. I was burned out at that point.
Okay.
At that point, it was just I started getting a little older. I'm still in my 30s at the time.
Yeah.
Mid 30s by that point.
You said you were married?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was just 7 days a week. Just, it's the real estate grind. And you start to think, do I want this to be the next 25, 30, 40 years of life? It's just working 7 days a week and always going. So I thought I'd reset and get a new start in a new city where I didn't know anyone, didn't have any prospects of income. And so we moved to Raleigh in 2015.
So you've told me this story before. I think it's kind of funny. So if you don't mind sharing it, you were doing some ads here, right?
Yeah. Right. Do I share this?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's funny.
All right. Good. Another good friend of yours.
Yeah.
I am, for just spoiler alert for those that don't know, I am not the only Bruce Hill selling real estate in Raleigh, and I didn't know this.
Yeah.
So I came here knowing big media, and I got a live endorsement from a local radio personality here, and bought that radio spot every single morning, 4 days a week, running this 60-second read with my unique selling proposition. And after about 4 months, I hadn't had anything, which is not wildly uncommon for that type of lead generation. But I get my first call, and this lady says, "Is this Bruce Hill?" Yeah. She says, "I just want to let you know I've heard your radio ads, and I would never sell my house with you." Why? And she goes, "I've been calling you for a month, and you haven't even had the decency to call me back." I was like, know I don't know what you're talking about. I don't have any missed calls from this number. And what number do you have? And she gave me a number, and I looked it up, and it belonged to, and I'm sure it wasn't cell phone. I guarantee it wasn't cell phone. It was probably just like a burner number floating out there. It belonged to this other Bruce Hill. And I realized right then that my crucial mistake is not even researching myself or establishing any kind of online presence, because who knows how much business I lost.
That's so funny.
During that 4 months.
And that other Bruce Hill happens to be a friend of mine, right? And I've done some real estate transactions with him, and personally, as well as some of his clients. But it's funny. He also owns a couple other businesses now and does some other things. He doesn't really focus on real estate. But when you told me that story, I was like, oh my God, that's hilarious. I'm sure it wasn't at the time for you, but but it's funny to look back at.
Well, after 4 months of running radio ads, very well probably was the first person that had actually gotten to the point of calling anyway. So, could have been 10 deals I lost. Could have been none. I don't know.
That's so funny. But you had an upset client. That's our potential client. Anyway. So let's talk a little bit about kind of one of your niches now. So you do something a little bit different and you're kind of known as Coach Bruce Hill, right? So that's part of what you do. So let's talk about what you coach and how you ended up in this unique, I guess aspect or side or part of the business, part of the real estate. So you're involved in estate planning, or at least like from probate stuff, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk about how you got into that and what you do with it now.
It all started with a competitor of mine in Virginia. I said, when you're doing big media advertising and lead generating that way and getting appointments that way, you're often head to head with other agents. And there was one other agent there that I was consistently head to head with. It's kind of hard to miss the people that are on radio all the time. But let's just say he didn't really know where I was getting all our business from, and I didn't know where he was getting his from. I think we had some ideas, but didn't really know the details. So in the moving truck on the way down here, I started kind of driving. It's 3.5 hour drive. And I'm sitting there in silence, and I go, I think I just made a big mistake. Like, I just left all my business behind, and I don't know anybody. What am I doing? So I pick the phone up, and I call him, and I was like, hey, man, now that we're not competitors, and you probably don't know this, but I'm in a moving truck moving 3.5 hours away. Where are you getting your deals from? How are you head to head? And he goes, oh, thank God, I'm tired of being head to head against you. And I was like, I'm tired of being head to head against you for these listings. And he told me it was probate. And I'd never even considered that as a niche. So over the next couple of weeks, we jumped on phone calls, and I think it was go to webinar or something like that. And with me, he built out a course that he later called Probate Mastery, which trains real estate agents, real estate investors, how to offer value to families going through a probate process. Obviously, there's an inherited piece of real estate in a lot of those transactions, so many times it's going to be sold. And instead of calling and saying, hey, see, your brother died, do you want to sell the house? Which happens all the time.
I'm sure.
Instead of doing that, you call and offer them value and really step in and help with their process, and a lot of times get the deal. And that's where he was getting his. So he kind of taught me how to do it, and that training that he gave me, mentorship he gave me, turned into his course, which now I own. Okay. So I kind of got into it that way, mainly because I didn't know anyone, and I knew that sphere of influence was so huge for most agents, or at least it should be. And so that and radio were the first two cold lead sources that I started to build when I moved here.
Okay.
And then obviously I was out networking and trying to build out my sphere of influence again, my base of relationships. But started doing probate. At the time, it was a lot different than it is now.
What are some of the biggest changes?
Well, psychology is probably the biggest change. So we are in a world where we're inundated with call center calls. We're inundated with marketing from every angle. The consumer is just more savvy. They're a little bit more wary of marketing ploys and poorly constructed unique selling propositions. It used to be in 2015 when I started pursuing the probate space, I could do 3 ringless voicemails. So I don't know if you remember Slide Dial, but
Yeah.
I'd pick the phone up and I'd record a message, and it wouldn't leave your name. Say I was wanted to drop it to you, but 100 other people at the same time.
Yep.
I'd record it and I'd send it to that list of 100 people, and I would do that immediately after I would send a letter. So I would send monthly letters for 3 months. And then the day after I thought the letter would have landed in their mailbox, I'd drop that voicemail.
Okay.
And it was easy. Okay. And it was good for 1 to 3 listings per month. Not instantly. Everything when you're generating leads and you're creating opportunities with people that don't know you, you don't know them, there's always a 6 to 8 month turn time if you're good at cultivating the relationship. But it got to the point where it's pretty consistently giving 1 to 3 deals a month, sometimes more. And then I started coaching it. Then, it's like, okay, I'm doing this. There's not a lot of other people in the country that are doing this. I'm not coaching 100 people locally to compete.
Yeah.
A couple, but mostly it's just nationwide. And so I started coaching probate, and then I started coaching just general real estate, obviously with a different angle. My experience really was not very typical.
Yeah, traditional.
Of most agents or most coaches' experience. Most coaches are showing up going, call for sale by owners and expireds, and I'd never done that, or build your relationships. And I really hadn't done that to a high level at that point. So my coaching was systems, lead generation, prospecting once the lead was generated, and probate.
Okay. So I'm curious, like, it sounds like you could really do this in any market.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And have you ever considered doing that as just getting other agents in markets where you could literally just generate all the leads and then let them sell the real estate?
I do it now.
Do you? Okay, so that's how you do it. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
What a brilliant idea.
Yeah, brilliant idea. The funny thing is you came up with that in 15, 20 minutes of conversation. It took me 8 years of doing and coaching it before I even thought, hey, maybe I could do this. So
yeah, it's interesting is how I met you. Of course, I'd heard that there was another Bruce Hill, right? This is other than my other buddy, because I think I'd Googled him at one point for something, and then I found your stuff, and I was like, wait, that's not him. Anyway, but how we actually got to meet is an agent that I do some work with. I'm pretty sure it was Julie Toy.
Yes,
right?
it was. Yeah.
In fact, we have a closing next Wednesday.
Oh, nice.
I think it's our first one together. Very excited. I met her, ironically, through a cold email campaign, which I've never done before. I did one thing and met several really cool agents, and she was one of them. But after some conversations with her, she said, do you know Bruce Hill? And I was like, which one?
Yeah.
And then I realized it was the one I didn't know. And she goes, I think you would really like having a conversation with him. So I cold called you, and next thing you know, we were on probably a 45-minute conversation, and we've become friends ever since then. So it was really cool. But I just wanted to take a quick second and say thank you so much for watching our podcast so far. If you do me a huge favor before you forget about it, to like, subscribe, and if you would, just leave a quick comment about what you think of the podcast. And if you want to share it with your friends, I'd love that too. Thanks again so much. We'll finish up right now. You came, when you and I first started talking, you were talking to me about like learning how to hire virtual assistants, right?
Yeah.
And so you use that in this model, in this business, right? So maybe talk a little bit more about how that kind of works. And you may have something else you wanted to chat about where you were, but I want to make sure we discuss that.
Well,
because you're not having to pick up the phone and call 1,000 people.
Correct. Yes. That's been an evolution in and of itself. So even when we talked before, that things were working. So just like probate and the way that I was doing it was generating a 1 to 3 deals a month. Now the system generates 15 to 20 a month in the average market. The VA side of it was generating a certain amount of leads for me to connect
VA
with.
virtual assistant,
Virtual assistant, ISA, inside sales agent, all synonymous with each other. And now I've got a system that's even better, but it's always evolving. Even something that worked flawlessly last year has to change a little bit. What's working this year is probably going to have to change next year. But
curious if you've gotten into AI assistants yet.
I have not. I've talked to a number of people about it, and I just haven't gotten there. I'm sure I will.
I went down the path a little bit, maybe 3 weeks ago, because I'd heard some cool things where you could utilize that. And I think I remember now, I was scrolling on Instagram and came across an ad. So I looked at that and it said you call all your past clients or all your leads or whatever. And I was like, man, that would be pretty amazing to do that. I'm wondering how good it works. So I had a meeting the next day. And then I tried it out, and I just don't think it's personally, for me, it's not there yet.
Yeah.
It won't be far. It won't be long.
Yeah, it shouldn't be long.
Yeah, the technology is advancing so fast, but
I don't think that the training of the AI agent is there yet.
Yeah.
I think that the AI is probably there. I don't think anyone's quite sequenced the training of it to where they need to yet.
Yeah.
I think it can be done.
Yeah.
It would be a fun project.
Yeah.
I don't have time for it though. Yeah. Yeah.
So, okay. So I go back to the virtual assistant piece. So, so how did you evolve to getting and learning about that? And then how do you utilize it?
Yeah. So, I evolved into that because, everyone that I was coaching, they were like, where are you using your virtual assistants, your inside sales agents? How are you doing that? And I'd tell them, and I'd say, here's where to hire, here's how much to pay, here's how to train, here's the dialer system you need. Now go do this. And the next week, did you do it yet? Nope. Did you do it yet? Nope. Did you do it yet? Nope. And so finally, I just started saying, I'll just do it for you. And I learned after about 1.5 years of just kind of doing it for them under a separate agency, I don't really like managing everybody else's inside sales agent team. Okay. So that's when we talked, as I was kind of managing those in addition to coaching and trying to do transactions.
Sure.
So that's sitting on the sideline. It's still semi-operational. Put a partner in that's kind of managing that. But I took the associates that I really liked, the VAs I really liked, and I just brought them over into my market in the probate space, and have a couple of them that are normally making calls. And it's not what you would think. You answer the phone 5 times a day if you answer. You probably do. I don't. If I get 5 missed calls a day that I don't know, I can guarantee you it's someone from another country, and it's really obvious they're in another country, and their pitch is kind of lousy, and it's not very efficient. So don't do that. Okay. Yeah. But you get really high quality expats, or folks that sound like expats and can communicate like they're a native American. Not Native American, but native U.S. Person. Okay. And they call, and instead of saying, hey, you want to sell the house, you've got to offer something that's really, really, really appealing. Really appealing. So, for example, in the probate space, we call people that have literally just applied for probate. They've just applied. It's 12, 15-month process for most folks.
Is it really that long?
It doesn't have to be, but yeah, average. And instead of
that
saying,
can be avoided, right, with the right stuff prepared ahead of time.
Yeah, definitely. So instead of saying, are you going to sell the house, which is what I used to do, we say, hey, we help with the administrative process, giving resources, guidance, different connections that you might need through the process. And then instead of, do you want that, we'll say, but I don't know if this is even something that would help you, or are you just getting started with probate, or are you in the middle of it for a little while now? And you get an interaction, and anyone can do that. I mean, that's not a hard conversation.
Yeah.
they'll give an answer, and then look, most likely there's not a lot that you're going to need right now while I'm on the phone. I know this is kind of a cold call, and I don't want to take your time. Can I get you resources? Not trying to take the place of your attorney. For those attorneys that are listening, not trying to take the place of the attorney, okay? But these families have to run newspaper ads, and they have to cut the grass, and they have to change the locks, and they have to get vacant property insurance if the house is vacant. And they've got to clean a house out if it was a hoarder house sometimes. They're dealing with grief. They need to fill paperwork out for the court system if they don't have an attorney. They've got to get an evaluation on all the assets. They have to find assets and titles. It's complex. And so just having someone that for free can help them and guide them through that process. And a lot of times they'll call me and say, I don't know how to run this newspaper ad. I'll do that with you. Let's jump on a Zoom and we'll go set up the ad right now.
So you're doing this for free, obviously, to gain the listing?
Sure.
Or okay, got it.
So the conversation is pretty simple. Look,
it seems like a lot of work to get
probate
listed.
is really complex. Sure, yeah. Probate's really complex. I've been through it before. I've been the administrator before. It's a job that you probably didn't ask for, and you're probably wishing you didn't have right now. I've done it for hundreds and hundreds of people, or with hundreds of people, and I'm not going to charge you anything for this. The only thing that I ask is, in the event that real estate is something that might be sold in the future, let me show you my plan. If real estate's not going to be sold, no problem. I'm here to help anyway.
Wow.
And yes, it does create work, but you've got to understand this is just the beginning of the relationship. People don't go, hey, I trust this stranger that just called me on the phone. Let me get him to manage my whole estate for me. That doesn't happen very often. So all the things that I can do with a family don't normally end up being done. It's usually much later as I nurture that relationship before they call and go, hey, can you help me with these things? And a lot of times it's buttoning up the loose ends. I'd like it to be helping from A to Z. I offer A to Z. And most of the time they're just not quite willing to trust a stranger yet.
Yeah, makes sense.
So they do half of it themselves. And then the last half of it, they're like, tired of this. A friend of mine, an agent, told me, he said, I've called him one day. He was on his way to DC to settle his aunt's estate. And I said, what's that been like? He said, Bruce, if you ever have a family member that you secretly just hate and you don't want to tell them while you're alive, make them the administrator or the executor for your estate. He said, in other words, it's just really complex. It's an unflattering job that not a lot of people want. And so we kind of do that for them.
Got it.
And it feeds the real estate business.
Got it. So it's providing listings, obviously, which, obviously most real estate agents want to focus on listings because listings create leads, create leverage, and then end up bringing more other business, right, buy-side business as well.
Yeah.
Although these people typically aren't going to buy, although maybe you're helping them, they're going to buy their own personal house at some point. They would come back to you if you helped them do that. So you coach this business to other real estate agents across the country.
Yeah.
How do people find out about you in the first place to know this, one, exists, and two, that you can provide this service for them?
Yep. We are one of two well-known certification courses that are in the industry.
Okay.
There are other courses. There's a couple of others that have a certification that goes with it. Certifications aren't really regulated. So no, we're not a realtor organization certification or anything like that. But we've kind of gotten my predecessor, my mentor, he kind of established a really good footprint where it was him and one other company that were really well known for providing the training that also came with a designation or certification. And then I've just kind of continued that over the last couple of years. So a ton of word of mouth. If you go Google probate training for real estate agents or probate training for real estate investors, we'll probably own 6 or 7 of the top spots on Google. Our other competitor, who's not really a competitor, we all get along, they probably own the other half. And then there's some others that sprinkle in there. So it's just Google, YouTube, word of mouth,
So in this, do you teach people to build relationships with local estate planning attorneys?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about that. How can a real estate agent in any market start to build relationships with estate planning, right? Because when I think of if I'm a real estate agent, there's different, obviously your sphere of influence is the biggest probably you're going to focus on. And then I would probably say, divorce attorneys is probably not a bad idea to build some relationships with them because there's going to be transactions created there. And estate planning attorneys and financial advisors.
Mm-hmm.
Real estate agents generally don't call on financial advisors. So there's a wide open opportunity there for the right people, right?
Yeah.
Same thing with mortgage lenders. We generally don't call on financial advisors. It's been a shift in my business over the last 6 months probably, where I've gone back to like really building some great relationships with financial advisors because I just have it's easy for me to refer to them.
Yeah.
And certainly they have, they have clients that truly trust their advice. Obviously they wouldn't have their money with them, right? And if they can say, and it's an easy referral. Once they refer it to me, the client's not shopping me. They're going to work with me, right?
Yeah.
So it's a great opportunity. But let's talk about estate, because I've got some estate planning attorneys that I do work with locally. We started building some relationships, but there seem to be a few that do a lot of the business, from what I gather. And so what do you teach agents about building that relationship?
Well, it's really funny how you talked about the different referral partners and the financial advisors, because we have to recognize the way that business normally flows. And if you're upstream of the way that business flows, so in other words, if you're in a position to refer a real estate agent, you're probably not going to want to take a lot of calls from real estate agents. If you're downstream from the way business frequently flows, you're going to love it.
Mm-hmm.
If I call a financial advisor, I'll get 10 meetings next week. I'll call 10 financial advisors, get 10 meetings. If I call 10 estate planning attorneys, for the most part, the stigma is you're just looking for referrals from me. I might get one that agrees to meet me next week. So I think it's a good idea to reverse the flow, because who is the estate planning attorney's primary referral partner?
The financial advisor?
Financial advisor. So the financial advisor wants to hear from me. The attorney wants to hear from the financial advisor. I want to hear from the attorney, but that's not the way that we normally prospect and build relationships. We usually go to the person that's up from us, that sends us business. So most of my relationships have come that way, going to the financial advisors who love inherited wealth. I get excited about it. And then while I'm building my team out, I could really use a great connection with an estate planning or a probate attorney. Do you know anyone? And if they say no, they're probably not a great financial advisor.
Yeah. I mean, if they're not already thinking about that, then what's wrong with you?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Every financial advisor should absolutely have relationships with estate planning attorneys for sure.
Yep.
Yeah. And honestly, we have over 2,000 past clients, right? That we keep a real database on, that we market to, we stay in front of, do events and stuff. And so most of those people don't have financial advisors, or they don't have one that it's like they inherited one, right? They moved their 401k to an IRA somewhere, and they're not really in relationship with that person.
Yeah.
But most people would agree that talking with a financial advisor is a good thing, right?
Yeah.
And so it's pretty easy for us to be able to introduce our clients to them, and that's the way I can get both. And the other thing is, just as you were talking about this probate, how do you avoid probate? Well, you actually have a plan, right? And so having a conversation, yes, you're going to spend some money. It's not going to be ridiculously expensive unless you're absurdly complex situation, which most people aren't going to have, right? I mean, if I was guessing, right, the average net worth of a client that we typically work with, right, and our average loan amount is about $400K. Probably the average purchase price that we work with is probably about $550, right? We have a lot of people that put a lot of money down, and so their average net worth is less than $1 million.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So it's not going to be generally very complex.
Yeah.
But it's still can avoid a whole lot. Now that's their net worth now. It's not necessarily what it's going to be when they die.
Right.
Right. And so it's not hard to introduce these people to people that you know and trust, as long as you build those relationships.
That's right.
And just like you said, asking a financial advisor if they don't have a good estate planning attorney that they can refer, I would tell, and they're obviously not a great financial advisor in that case. I would say probably the same thing about, yeah, I hadn't thought about it as a real estate agent, but probably the same thing about the real estate. They're missing a huge opportunity there to serve their clients at a high level. And even as a mortgage lender, if you don't have a good financial, like somebody you can go, this is the guy you need to talk to,
Yes.
then you're missing a huge opportunity for your clients.
And huge opportunity there. We're also missing a big opportunity if we don't have good estate planning attorneys or family law attorneys.
Yeah.
Or bankruptcy attorneys, elder care, guardianship. I mean, these relationships are valuable. It's not just about getting referrals.
Yeah, well, it's about helping your clients
Exactly.
with things they need, right?
Yep.
And you become way more valuable to your clients if you're doing stuff beyond just helping them buy the house. And not that that's not important; it's super important, or sell the house. But they all have all these other needs. And the other part that I think most real estate agents and lenders fail to do, and I could definitely be better at it, but we do have designated days. Today's Thursday. Today's past client call day for me. So I need to be calling 10 to 15 past clients today.
Yeah.
And what do you, like, people like don't call their past clients because they don't know what to say.
Yeah.
Right? They're like, they're not going to want to talk to me.
Yeah.
They don't, like, I don't know why. Why am I going to call them? Like, they're going to be like, why in the heck is Michael calling me? Right? But if you're genuinely engaged with them, I found when I make those past client calls, I can't believe the detail of the transaction that they remember.
Yeah.
Right? I have lost total memory of this, but they'll like bring up, Michael, you helped me so much when we bought our house, and I'm so grateful for your team. And I'm like, wow, thanks. I appreciate it. I think it's surprising. Right? But then asking them the question like, hey, just out of curiosity, do you guys have an estate plan? Now, we should be asking that during the application process,
Absolutely.
right? But there's a lot that I didn't ask. So we're going back now.
Yeah.
Do you have a financial advisor? Yeah, I do. Just out of curiosity, scale of 1 to 10, what would you rate your financial advisor? 7.
Yeah.
Why do you say 7? Or they say a 10. He's amazing. She's amazing. Man, I'd love to meet 10s.
Yes.
Can you introduce me to them? Would you mind? Of course, I'd be happy to do that. It's just huge opportunity, right?
Yeah. So often we, as agents, probably lenders, probably insurance agents as well, call our relationships, our center of influence, sphere of influence, friends, and we don't get a pickup. Why? Because they know that the ask is coming. They know that the chase is coming. You want to do a deal? You have any referrals for me? Why do attorneys not answer? Do you have any referrals for me? You're constantly chasing. So my mission with people that I've done business with before, sphere of influence, professional relationships, is to be a friend first. We'll play cards together sometimes. You call me. Do I ever duck your call? I don't think so.
No.
Why? Because I don't feel like it's just a big ask coming.
Sure.
Obviously, there's benefits, business benefits, not other benefits, business benefits. Okay. Obviously, we have business benefits, but we're friends first. So when I call my sphere of influence, they answer my call. Why? Because they're probably going to go to a game. They're probably going to go to a concert. I'm probably having an event that they're going to get invited to. It's friendship based. And then periodically, once or twice a year, I'll call and I'll say, hey, can I put my real estate hat on for a second? This is a real estate based conversation. I don't know if you knew this, but I do a lot in the probate and the estate space. And I wasn't sure if you had an estate plan, or I wasn't sure if you had a financial advisor. I need a connection to a good financial advisor. You have a good one I can talk to. So the ask comes when I call and I say, can I put my real estate hat on?
You got to make a lot of deposits before you make the withdrawal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? That's really important. I think we as salespeople sometimes can get too ahead of ourselves. I was just talking with a gentleman earlier today, and he wanted to get my feedback. It was a real estate agent, and he said, I'm curious about your thoughts on this. He goes, I got a guy that I've been referring a while from a lender perspective, and he does a good job. Sounded like they didn't have a very, very deep relationship, but the guy did a good job. He kind of ran across him from a buyer using this lender, right? And I guess the guy noticed that I've been doing, this is what he said. He goes, I guess the guy noticed I've been doing transactions where he wasn't a part of the buy sides of those transactions. And he literally just called me out and was like, hey, I noticed that you're closing some deals and I'm not the lender on those. Why haven't you sent me any clients? And of course, he was absurdly offended,
Mm-hmm.
right, by the way that this guy asked that question. And how could he not be, right? Like, there's times where I want to say something
Sure.
like that,
Yeah. Right.
right? But it's just idiotic to do that, right? You'd have to have a very unique relationship with that person. Like, some of the best partners that we have that they only refer us, right? They're not referring 3 other lenders. They're just referring us. We still probably capture maybe 30% of their buy side business.
Mm-hmm.
It's frustrating for not just me, it's frustrating for them too. They want us to get all that business. But me, or someone asking that, but going back to your point is, if you've got to make a lot of deposits, right, before you can do the ask, and for them to want to pick up your phone call, right? It's just totally. Every now and again when I'm making these past client calls from a few years back, I have kind of a system that we follow. Every now and again, somebody will like hang up on me. I'm like shocked because it's just like I hadn't talked to him in a long time, right?
Yeah.
It's interesting. I was doing some calls last week for refis because there's some folks that we need to stay engaged with for that as rates have dropped. And the guys like clicked up, and I was like, heck. And then I called it back, and he goes, "Hey man, I'm sorry, I'm at work. I can't talk right now. Can you call me later?" I was like, "Sure, man, no problem."
Yeah.
So I just sent him a text. Let me know when you're free. I'm happy to help. But yeah, I think it's just really important. What other thoughts are? I know we've been going for quite a while here. We've covered deeply a few things, but not a lot of topics here. Is there anything before we wrap up that you want to make sure that we just share with the audience, like either about your business or about your coaching, where they can add some value to our listeners? Most of our listeners are real estate agents.
Yeah. So I think that the biggest thing is the deposits. As far as coaching goes, I've accepted that I'm typecast as a coach. I love coaching on sphere of influence. I love coaching on high level network relationships and kind of your systems and processes. But I've been typecast as the probate and the estate guy. I've just accepted that.
Mm-hmm.
So if there are people that do want to learn a little bit more and want to know, I do partner with agents across the country and investors, but heavy dose of agents across the country to kind of help run the front end all the way up to the appointment level of their business. And for people that say, I don't want you to run my business and I don't want to share a piece of this, I've got my certification program. It's called Probate Mastery. And I do coaching in that space as well for people that just kind of want to come in and learn the process of establishing a niche in the estate and the probate space. But if you are the type of person that calls and is just a hunter, and I like hunters, but if you're just a hunter, say your husband died, do you want to sell the house? This is the absolute last thing that you ever want to consider doing. If you're the type of person that wants to lead with incredible value and make about a dozen deposits in the lives of someone that you're working with, whether that be an attorney or a family that's going through a probate or an estate administration process, you make deposits with the I want to stop short of saying promise, but I'll say promise with the promise of changing your business and getting 100 or more listings in your business every year. Probate might be the space for you. I have people doing 200 deals a year.
Wow.
In probate. It's a difficult relationship to build because it's a stranger that's grieving and has a big process ahead, and they're not making fast decisions. But if that's the type of relationship that you like to build, really could be the space as an agent.
I assume you have a website for your probate business?
The training is Probate Mastery.
Okay.
My local probate business, I operate on voice-to-voice and face-to-face communication.
Got it.
And my packages that I send out are a website. Probably not a very good answer. Your buddy over here is gonna be like, "Hey, I'll build your website for you." Okay. But my packages are my website. I send out so much value to people with the hope that maybe there's a real estate deal later.
Got it.
That makes their process easy.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Man, I appreciate you being here. Thanks a lot. We'll definitely have to have you on again. Really enjoyed it. Guys, thank you so much for coming. Be sure to like and subscribe. I don't know why I ask that every time, but we'd love for you to do that for us. And hope to see you next time. Thanks so much.